Hello people, this is Sonali, the Melodramatic Bookworm. If you've been here before, welcome back, and if you're new to my channel, welcome to the Melodramatic Bookworm family. Also welcome to the last book haul of 2021. Yes, there's about 5 days to go on the day of filming this video before 2021 ends and 2022 starts, and my brain, which is still processing 2020, it sort of has gone on this whole strike where it has decided to process only the books that I buy or read and not even the number of books that I read, because it tells me that buying books and reading books are two different hobbies, and I indulge in both even though I can't remember stuff like I should. Anyway, that's not the point here. The point is I have more than 50 books to show you. So without any further ado, let's dive right into this video, and as per tradition, let's do the last book haul of the year. The first book that I bought since the last book haul is The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. This was a fun, enjoyable read, although it did get dragged in a lot of places. This is a story of Luna, who gets adopted by a witch in the woods. I mean, as a baby, she's left by the whole village in the woods as a sort of sacrifice to the witch, and the witch, who, as against what the villagers think, is actually a very cool person. She feeds the babies that she takes every year starlight, but she ends up feeding Luna moonlight, and a lot of other things happen which shouldn't technically be happening. And what happens when Luna actually comes into her powers and when she starts showing all of them forms this entire story. There's a lot of magic and witchery and sorcery and the stuff in here. It's very heartwarming in certain places, but I felt like the recipe for this whole book became a little bit repetitive. Next is a book that was, I think, recommended to me by Smriti from Sant Reads, and this is a sort of YA about how a girl and a gardener, I think, can stand up against the government, and that is the book is called Year of the Weeds by Siddhartha Sarma. Korok lives in a small Gond village in Odisha. His life is in the garden he tends every day. Anchita, an artist, lives in the house which has the garden. One day the government tells the Gonds they have to leave the village. A company wants to mine the sacred hill next to it for bauxite. The Gonds oppose it, but the government, led by police officer Sarkari Patnaik, is sure to win. So is the company. How long will the Gond resistance last when politicians, young activists, and even Maoists arrive at the village? What can a lone gardener and a girl with a sketchbook do against the most powerful people in the world? And although I have said that this is supposed to be a YA book, this is blurbed by Hansra Sauvendra Shekhar, who says it would be unfair to categorize this novel as a YA book because it deserves to be read by anyone who can read. That's the thing about YA books. Some of them have such strong messages that everybody should read them, and I feel like this is going to be one such. Next is a book that the cover is so spectacular, and I immediately went and bought it when I heard that this duology was becoming a series, I think, series or movie, I can't remember, but the first one is called Ray Bearer by Jordan Ifueko, and the second in the duology is called Redemptor, and I absolutely love how this book looks. Like the cover is fantastic, and I haven't read the first book, so I cannot tell you what exactly it is about, and this is a sequel, so I usually refrain from talking about what sequels are. I think next year is going to be the year in which I will read this duology, but yes, just take a look at this fabulous cover. Look how it shines. Oh yeah, I gave in and I got Ikigai by Hector Garcia and Francesc Miralles, and this is one of the most famous self-help books of that you see across BookTube and Bookstagram, and you see that it has helped a lot of people as well. And you know that I'm on this sort of journey to make my own life better, and I have read quite a few books and found them helpful as well, and I'm hoping that this will help me have a long and happy life. Okay, although long life doesn't seem that palatable, but okay, a happy life I want. Next up is another book that I've read very recently at that, and that is Queeristan by Parmesh Shahani. This talks about LGBTQ inclusion in the Indian workplace, and it has a lot of information as to how to go about doing it. Parmeshani, who is one of India's most prominent LGBTQ plus personalities, puts into place a lot of guidelines which Indian workplaces can use to make their environments better for queer people, and it's a lot of information to take in, and a lot of it is very helpful, and I'm glad I got a physical copy because I know I'm going to go back and reread it. If you haven't watched my Nonfiction November reading vlog, you should go check it out because I have read this book in that vlog and I've talked about it more over there and about my opinions about what this book is about. Next up is Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. I don't know anything about this except that it is very highly rated. Are you happy in your life? Those are the last words Jason Dessen hears before the masked abductor knocks him unconscious. Before he awakes to find himself strapped to a gurney surrounded by strangers in hazmat suits. Before the man he's never met smiles down at him and says, "Welcome back." In this world he's woken up to, Jason's life is not the one he knows. His wife is not his wife. His son was never born. And Jason is not an ordinary college physics professor. Is it this world or the other that's the dream? The answer lies in a journey more wondrous and horrifying than anything Jason could have imagined. Okay, you know what? I don't know why, but this is giving me such Project Hail Mary vibes, even though both of them are not related in any way. There's no point in Project Hail Mary that goes into alternate realities. It's just one whole reality, but this somehow my brain just decided to make that connection. Okay, the next few ebooks I got as part of the Amazon Great Indian Festival, and some of these I have already read and loved, and I've spoken about them in different videos which I will direct you to. And the first of these is called What to Read and Why by Francine Prose. I purely got this because of the title and because of the cover. So this book is a collection of essays in which the author talks about the pleasures of reading and how to go about selecting your books and such. At least that's what I gleaned from what it actually says in the blurb. You can see why I'm really excited about this, although I haven't found it in myself to pick it up, like to start reading it. Next up is Name Place Animal Thing by Dariva Lindem. I've spoken about this in my JCB prize prediction video and I was sort of rooting for it, but it didn't come about. But this is a coming of age story of a young Khasi girl in Shillong, Meghalaya, and it talks about her whole personal growth and how she changes according to what's happening around her as a result of the people and the political climate around her in Meghalaya, and also her relationship with the people around her. It's a great book that I really enjoyed reading. It just tugged at my heartstrings and I would definitely highly recommend it. Next up is Displacement by Kiku Hughes. This is the story of Japanese immigrants, and it tells it in a very interesting manner in which a girl in around present day is transported back to World War II, during which after the bombing of Pearl Harbor, Japanese immigrants in America were put in internment camps, and how things changed for all of them during that time. And it explores a lot of the people themselves and how their relationship with each other, as well as their relationship with the land that they are on, it changes, evolves, and turns into this huge question mark, no thanks to the American government's doings. So it's a heart-wrenching book and it's very informative. Next up is My Shit Therapist and Other Mental Health Stories by Michelle Thomas. And this is again another non-fiction in which Michelle Thomas talks about her experiences with a therapist. I haven't read this yet and I cannot say more about this. I really want to know what this is about, and I'm hoping that 2022 will be that year, although I don't want to force myself or pressure myself. Next up is a collection of essays by Samantha Irby. It's called Meaty, and it talks about her own experiences with food, relationships, sex, and adulthood as a whole. And I'm really looking forward to this because I feel like this is going to be one of those hilarious, relatable essays which on the surface you laugh at and you think that, oh wow, I relate so much to this, but then again it's sad that this happens to us and that society has made it seem so sad. But yes, sad or hilarious or both, I'm really looking forward to reading this collection. Next up is Things We Say in the Dark by Kirsty Logan. This a collection of dark stories, be it about the supernatural or be it about some other thrilling stories, I was very intrigued by. So when I saw that it was in sale, I got it. And from contemporary fairy tales to supernatural fiction, if you see the whole range, it's super intriguing, and I cannot wait to start on this. Next up is another graphic novel that I finished reading in October, and that is They Called Us Enemy by George Takei of Star Trek fame. And he talks about his experience as a child in the Japanese internment camps, just like Displacement was. And this book talks about his own experiences, what he went through, how his parents went through this whole bad experience of being in an internment camp. I think George was 7 years old when he was put in the camp, and since then he has been a huge figure when it comes to things like this, as well as when it comes to LGBTQ plus rights. And next up is Nothing to See Here by Kevin Wilson, and I must say that I purely bought this book because of that cover. It's so mind-boggling, and I've read on the internet that this is a book about children who catch fire when they're upset or something. It's something like they have some sort of superpowers or something. And apparently it also talks about acceptance of people who aren't like you and who are not part of your immediate familial or friend circles. And that is something that I'm always interested in reading, and if it's going to break my heart, then so be it. Next up is Rules of Civility by Amor Towles, and I must say that this is one book that I bought just because of the author. I have heard so much about Amor Towles' writing. I do have A Gentleman in Moscow on my TBR, but I haven't yet read it. But I heard so many good things about this author. This is a story of a young woman in 1937, if I'm not mistaken, and about how her life changes when she comes into contact with a very handsome banker, and how she turns into this high-flying socialite of New York society. So I'm really interested to see how this goes and to see how he has portrayed this young woman. Next up is Sophie's World by Justine Garder, I think it is, and I always thought it was Gardner, but apparently it's Garder. And this is the story of, I think, 14-year-old Sophie, who one day she comes back from school. I think this is set in a small Norwegian village, and she begins to question herself when she finds two notes in her mailbox which ask, "Who are you?" and I think something related to where has the world come from, or where have you come from. And she begins to question things, and she sets out on this journey in which she wants to find the answers to this or something. I was intrigued then, and when I saw that this was at a great price, I thought, yes, let's do this. Next up is The Roads to Sata by Alan Booth. This is a non-fiction about Alan Booth's own experience in going from a part of Japan to Sata in Japan itself, and his whole 128-day journey and 2,000 miles that he covered and his experiences during that. I love traveling, but I haven't read a lot of books on traveling, and I want to change that. I want to correct that. Japan is a country that I really want to visit because it's such a beautiful country. I mean, I know immediate travel plans are off the table, but still. Next up is How I Broke Up with My Colon by Nick Seluk, the Awkward Yeti. You've heard me talk about this book in my October wrap-up. I really enjoyed this series of comics which have shown real life experiences of some people and about how crazy it can get in the medical field. But although I think I prefer his heart and brain comics more than what this is, and I'm really looking forward to getting that once it comes to a decent price in India. Next up is House of Stone by Nobuyo Rosa Shuma. I'm going to read out the blurb of this because I remember just bits and pieces of what it's about, but I can't seem to connect the lot. In the chronic turmoil of modern Zimbabwe, Abednego and Agnes Mlambo's teenage son Bukosi has gone missing, and Mlambos fear the worst. I think that's how it's pronounced. Sorry. Their enigmatic lodger, Zamani, seems to be the last best hope for finding him. Since Bukhosi's disappearance, Zamani has been preternaturally helpful, hanging missing posters in downtown Bulawayo, handing out flyers to passers-by, and joining in family prayer vigils with the flamboyant Reverend Pastor from Agnes's Blessed Anointings Church. It's almost like Zamani is part of the family. But almost isn't nearly enough for Zamani. He ingratiates himself with Agnes and feeds alcoholic Abednego's addiction, desperate to extract their life stories and steep himself in borrowed family history. As keenly aware as any colonialist or power-mad despot that the one who controls the narrative inherits the future. As Abednego wrestles with the ghosts of his past and Agnes seeks solace in a deep-rooted love, their histories converge and each must confront the past to find their place in a new Zimbabwe. Pulsing with wit, seduction, and dark humor, House of Stone is a sweeping epic that spans the fall of Rhodesia through Zimbabwe's turbulent beginnings, exploring the persistence of the oppressed in a young nation, seeking an identity but built on forgetting. Next up is The Unconsoled by Kazuo Ishiguro. I have never read Kazuo Ishiguro yet. I do have Clara and the Sun on my TBR, but I also added The Unconsoled. It talks about a man who has arrived in a city to give a piano concert. He's a pianist, but he can't remember agreeing to this concert, and it seems very simple at the beginning, but I also think that it sort of could become something major, something great. Next up is On the Map, Why the World Looks the Way It Does by Simon Garfield. I think this is it explains everything perfectly well, that this book talks about why the world looks the way it does, and it talks about the evolution of the map, the world map or something, and I'm really interested to find out what exactly is it. I don't know if it is the perfect account for it all, but I'm still looking forward to finding out more about what the author has to say in this book. Next is Grunt, The Curious Science of Humans at War by Mary Roach, and this is a non-fiction in which Mary Roach, she tries to find out what exactly is it about humans, about how soldiers get through wars and how they tackle panic, exhaustion and the like, and she goes through a lot of exercises as well to find out like solid answers to what she is actually looking for. So I'm really looking forward to this because I feel like humanity has been plagued by war for since time immemorial, but why does it happen and how humanity sustains itself despite all of that, I'm really intrigued to find out. Next up is a book series for which a movie came out recently. It is based on the first half of the first book, and the book series is called Dune by Frank Herbert. And there are a lot of issues with how this series was written. I'm not really clear on the facts, but I am going to try to find out what exactly it is about. But I did think that the movie, even though it was a good sort of study in CGI and the like, I just thought that it was dragged. I mean, it was very jarring, and I don't like jarring. I don't know how the books are going to turn out, but let's see. Next up are two books that a friend on Bookstagram was unhauling, so I went and bought them. And the first is What Would the Auntie Say by Anchal Seda. And this is a book that I saw on Shweta from Booksqueak's her Bookstagram account, and I was like, I need this in my life. This is something that every Indian girl has wondered, like, what would the auntie say, or log kya kahenge? If not aunties, then log kya kahenge? It's very ingrained in our culture, if you can call it, and that's why I'm really interested in reading this book, which is a collection of experiences for a brown girl and how to live your life while tackling this whole what would the aunties say kind of situations in our lives, because we know we've all been there and we still go through it. The second book that I bought of Manvi was Kintsugi by Anukriti Upadhyay. Kintsugi is a Japanese concept of mending broken objects with gold it's a sort of concept that broken things are precious too, but this is a book of fiction in which that concept can be applied. I'd seen this everywhere on Bookstagram, and I was really intrigued by the whole concept because I had heard of the concept of Kintsugi, and I had thought that this was a non-fiction book. Next up is Before the Coffee Gets Cold, Tales from the Cafe by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and translated into English by Jeffrey Trosselot. And you've seen me lose my mind over Before the Coffee Gets Cold, the first in this series. And I don't know if this is a continuation of that or what, but that book is so amazing. The first book is set in a cafe in which you can time travel. But there are certain rules, which means you can time travel, but only within that cafe, and you have to come back to the present before the coffee gets cold. I'm just so in awe of this man. Like, author by author, arena author by narrator, author listen narrator, and just amaze. Next is a book that I have had my eyes on for such a long time and I've heard such amazing things of, and that is 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Hanf. And this is an epistolary novel about a bookstore, I think, about a bookstore on 84 Charing Cross Road. And I don't have any other idea, but I've only seen good reviews and people gushing over this book. So I'm just looking forward to reading it. Next up is a book based on the Partition. It's called The Other Side of Silence, Voices from the Partition of India by Urvashi Butalia. And I don't remember who it was who read this book and spoke about it in our Partition Lit collaboration. But ever since then, I had my eye on this book and I am really looking forward to reading this, because partition literature is something that I haven't read a lot, but having read that, I know that I need to learn more about my own country's history, and it's just the first step. I finished reading Remnants of a Separation in November, and that was a kick to the gut, and this is another that I know that it's going to inform me while making me feel things. Next up is a book that someone was unhauling and I got it off of them, and the book is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. This is a book that has been referenced in a couple of the non-fiction books that I've read recently, including Atomic Habits and Make Time by Jake Knapp and John Zaratsky. And I really wanted to know what this is about. If those were referencing this, then I wanted to know what the source was saying. And I think it's pretty self-explanatory that this talks about how cultivating a habit will be powerful and useful for you in your life. So I know certain tips and tricks, but I'll use all the tips and tricks that I can get. Next up is Over My Dead Body by Jeffrey Archer. This is the fourth in the William Warwick series and I'm so pissed off, I can't tell you. The first three in the series had very beautiful covers. They were blue and golden and yellow and all of that, and they were published by Pan Macmillan India. This one is published by HarperCollins India, and they made such a I don't like the change to the cover. It's like, why? This follows William Warwick and his whole experience in the police, in the British police, I think. And this is about murder and how William Warwick, in association with another colleague, he sets out to catch the killers, the murderers. And yeah, and you know what? How much ever I try to not focus on that, my thoughts just keep going back to the cover, and I'm like, why would you do that? This is... Next up is a book that I do have the e-copy of, but I was getting the hardcover for a very reasonable price and I got it, and I feel like this is a book that is going to be worth it either way. And that book is Coming Out as Dalit by Yashika Dutt, and this is a memoir of the author and about how her sharing that she is a Dalit mattered so much, and how concealing that fact also matters so much. At least that's what I think it is. That's what I've heard. I got it at I think 250 or something, which is very cheap compared to its price of like 400 plus. So yeah, it's a deal. I think it's a good deal. Next up are three books that were gifted to me by my very dear friend Chaitra from Miss Bibliotaph on Instagram. And the first one is Vichoda by Harinder Sikka. I don't know how this is pronounced and I'm really sorry if I butchered that title. But this is based on a true story of Bibi Amrit Kaur, whose life is literally torn apart in the 1947 riots. She's now in a different place with a different identity. She accepts this new life gracefully and begins a new chapter. She gets married and has 2 children. Life, however, has something else in store for her. It breaks her apart. Again, this time the pain is unbearable. But the hope that she will reunite with her children and be whole again keeps her alive, and she doesn't let the bitterness cloud her days, becoming a beacon of hope and courage. So this is set in 1950. The Liaquat Nehru Pact has been signed between India and Pakistan. She doesn't know it will change her life forever, but it will also make her stronger. And I had read Calling Sehmat, I think 3 years ago, 2018, I think it was, I read it. And I wasn't a huge fan of the writing style, but I really liked what the author, how the author told Sehmat's story. She also sent me Zeke and Ned by Larry McMurtry and Diana Osana. I have no idea about this book, and I have never heard of the authors before, but this is the story of Zeke Proctor, who as a child walked the Trail of Tears from Georgia to the Indian Territory, acquiring through that bitter struggle a fierce loyalty to the Cherokee way. Though a family man and a respected member of the Cherokee Senate, Zeke is also an adventurous charmer with a fatally roving eye. Ned Christie is tall and charismatic with waistland hair and the kind of good looks that appeal to women all over the district. But Ned's heart is set on one woman, Jewel, Zeke's beautiful young daughter. It's a powerful and moving novel about love, honor, loyalty, and heroism that skillfully combines family chronicle with a fascinating slice of American history. Interesting as hell, and it's not something that I would have picked up on my own, but I'm glad that Chaitra did. And the next book that she sent was The Last Witchfinder by James Morrow. This is set in 1688, in which Walter Stern, Witchfinder General for Mercia and East Anglia, roams the countryside in search of heretics. His daughter Janet is left behind in the care of her Aunt Isabel, who schools her in the new philosophy expounded by Isaac Newton. But her aunt's style of scientific inquiry soon attracts the attention of the witchfinders. Janet's attempts to save her aunt are ultimately doomed, but she promises Isabel that she will devote her life to overturning the Parliamentary Witchcraft Act. Our heroine's quest will entail many picaresque adventures, including a brush with the Salem witch trials, Indian captivity, erotic nights with Benjamin Franklin, a Caribbean shipwreck, and a final showdown between the old superstition and the new science. And I feel like this is going to be another one of those books that's going to break my heart, and I'm fully prepared for it. So bring it on. And thank you, Chaitra, once again for gifting me this. Next up are 3 books that I got again from Chaitra, who had gone to visit, I think it was the Blossoms bookstore in Bangalore. She was like, do you want any books? And I was like, yes, these 3 please. And it was coming at an offer, which I will tell you about. I don't think it's still there, but yeah, I'm glad I got these. The first one is Ex Libris, 100 plus books to read and reread by Michiko Kakutani. And this is a gorgeous book, first of all. And I don't know the books that are in here, but I'm really excited to go through the books and find out if there's something that I would really like to buy next. Already making plans for the next book haul. Very nice. Anyway, so this is the first book. I am in love with this book. This itself, this gorgeous hardcover. Next up is Loss by Siddharth Dhanwant Shangvi, and this is the author's memoir, and it talks about his how he dealt with loss and grief in his life. And I've heard nothing but amazingly heart-wrenching reviews of this book. I mean, it's a thin book and I know that I can get through it pretty fast, but then these are the kind of books that you shouldn't get through pretty fast. And then the offer was that if you buy 2 books, then the third is going to be free. So the book that I got free was The Body in the Library by Agatha Christie, and this is a murder mystery again, and about the body in the library. I think this is Poirot. Miss Marple. This is a Miss Marple mystery, and I'm really excited to read this as well. I'm really excited for those books as well, but also for this because Agatha Christie is one of my favorite authors of all time, and I think that her writing is just fabulous, and the way she connects the dots is like something else. And then we got a couple of books that I already have read and absolutely loved, but I am now on a mission for one of these books to get as many editions as possible, because that book is my life, and you know which book I'm talking about, and that is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. This is a hardcover edition. I know it doesn't make sense to have multiple copies of the same book, but this is just that one book which I will indulge in because this is so close to my heart, and I thought, okay, the now I need this in my life, and we got this. I'm not going to talk much about this book because I think I'm going to tear up, and I don't want that happening. Although the tearing up and all, it just keeps happening on a day-to-day basis, be it related to the book or not. So, and then the second book, which I already have a copy of, is we got a different copy because that copy has a movie tie-in edition, and I don't want to see anything with Ansel Elgott's face on it. The book is The Fault in Our Stars by John Green. This is the story of Hazel Grace Lancaster and Augustus Waters and their love story, and about how cancer wrecks their lives. You know how much this book has impacted me and how much I love the story, how much I've laughed, how much I've cried. Oh, I've choked up so many number of times that I cannot even recollect. But this is a book that I wanted this copy of because, again, I didn't want that fellow's face. Although that copy was a gift from my husband. And then the book that we bought along with this was The Unbearable Lightness of Being by Milan Kundera. I think, is that how it's pronounced? I'm not really sure. I've seen so many people gush about, especially on Bookstagram, and some of the people who I really admire gush about this book, and they talk about how this is so relatable in so many ways. This is a story of irreconcilable love and infidelities in which Milan Kundera addresses himself to the nature of 20th century being, offering a wide range of brilliant and amusing philosophical speculations. Okay. Next up are 4 books that I bought at a secondhand store near my mom's place. I got these at a pretty reasonable prices, so I'm not really mad about any of these. But the first book is The Inheritance of Loss by Kiran Desai, and this is a hardcover, and this is the story of in the northeastern Himalayas, at the foot of Mount Kanchenjunga, in a crumbling isolated house, there lives a cantankerous old judge who wants nothing more than to retire in peace. But with the arrival of his orphan granddaughter Sai and the son of his chatty cook trying to make his way in the US and stay a step ahead of the immigration services, this is far from easy. When a Nepalese insurgency threatens the blossoming romance between Sai and her handsome tutor, they too are forced to consider their colliding interests. And the judge must revisit his past, his own journey, and his role in this grasping world of conflicting desires, every moment holding out the possibility of hope or betrayal. I've only heard about Kiran Desai's writing, and I don't think she has written a lot of books. This, I think, was a debut which won the Booker Prize, and I have had my eye on this for ages. Like, it was on among the bunch of books that I have a list of which I really want to read, including some classics and the like. And when I found this, I literally jumped and I bought this. And then is a book that I jumped to buy because of certain things. I'll tell you. The book is Grimm's Fairy Tales by Jacob and Wilhelm Grimm, who are the Grimm brothers, who are really famous for the fairy tales. But why did I jump to buy this book? Can you? That's why. There's an introduction by Matt Haig, and I was like, and I immediately went and bought this book. I mean, Chaitra was with me, and she was looking at a Grimm's fairy tales collection, a book. But the moment I saw this, I just went, I'm sorry, I got a more beautiful edition than the one you have in your hands, but I'm never giving this up to you. Please don't mind. I love you, but you're not getting this. Like, anything with Matt Haig's even name in or an introduction as well, I'm like, gimme. Next is If You See Me Don't Say Hi by Neil Patel, and I think this encapsulates my life as an introvert. Like, this I've seen on, again, Shweta's posts, I think, and in which she gushes about this book. I will read the blurb for you though. In 11 Sharp Surprising Stories collection, Neil Patel gives voice to our most deeply held stereotypes and then slowly undermines them. His characters subvert our expectations that they will sit quietly by. We meet 2 brothers caught in an elaborate web of envy and loathing, a young man who becomes involved with an older man whose secret he could never guess, 3 women who almost gleefully throw off the pleasant agreeability society asks of them, And in the final pair of linked stories, a young couple struggling against the devastating force of community gossip. If You See Me, Don't Say Hi examines the collisions of old world and new world, small town and big city, traditional beliefs and modern rituals. Patel's stories, empathetic, provocative, twisting and wryly funny, introduce a bold new literary voice, one that feels timelier than ever. I was off kilter with how I interpreted the title, so it's fine. At least that's what I'm telling myself. Next up is Ha Ha Hoo Hoo, a horse-headed god in Trafalgar Square by Vishwanatha Satyanarayana. This is translated into English from the Telugu by Velcheru Narayana Rao has translated this book into English, and I am really intrigued. Like, the title is so unexpected, you wouldn't think that this could be the title of a book. This tells the delightful tale of an extraordinary creature that mysteriously appears in London one fine morning, causing considerable excitement and consternation among the city's denizens. Dressed in silks and jewels, it has the head of a horse but the body of a human and speaks in an unknown tongue. What is it? And most importantly, why is it here? In the hilarious satire, Vishnu Sharma learns English. A Telugu lecturer is visited in a dream by the medieval poet Tikkanna and the ancient scholar Vishnu Sharma with an unusual request. They want him to teach them English. Their elegant Velcheru Narayana Rao's elegant translation is accompanied by an erudite introduction and afterword which illuminate the fascinating life and works of Vishwanatha Satyanarayana. Next up are two review copies that I received from Pan Macmillan India, and the first one is A Taste of My Life by Chitrita Banerjee. Chitrita Banerjee is one of India's most famous food writers, if I'm not mistaken, and this is her memoir talking about her relationship with food and how it has evolved over the years. I think that's what it is, and I'm really excited to read it. This is a thin book, like 140-150 pages only, and I'm really looking forward to it. I don't read a lot of food related books, but yes, this is something that I'm really excited to get into. The second book that I received from Pan Macmillan India is A Bird from Afar, a novel. The year 1942, the goal India, the plan audacious, the man bows. This is set in Nazi Germany, 1942. Stalingrad has fallen to the Axis powers after a bitter, brutal campaign in North Africa. Field Marshal Rommel's Africa Corps has emerged victorious. Rangoon has been seized by the Japanese after the capture of Singapore. Amidst these developments, Indian nationalist leader Subhash Chandra Bose has been camped in wartime Berlin since 1941, working furiously to build an army that will be able to march with him overland towards the Indian frontier. Bose is confronted with multiple dilemmas. In order to free India militarily from the clutches of the British Empire, he must ally with Hitler's forces, the Japanese army, and Mussolini's troops. And even if he succeeds, can a post-British India emerge as a single united country? Set during a turbulent and complex time in our nation's history, A Bird from Afar is an unforgettable tale of courage, resilience, and Subhash Bose's obsessive quest for Indian independence during the Second World War. Dreyer's English by Benjamin Dreyer, and Dreyer, I don't exactly know, but it's an utterly correct guide to clarity and style. I really want to improve my writing. I realized that I said this at the beginning of 2021 as well, but I feel like towards the end of 2021 I've gotten a little better at doing the things that I said that I would do. So I'm hoping that this will be a book that will help me through 2022 and help me realize the goals that I set in 2021 but was not able to do due to various reasons. But clarity and style and doing and writing in a way that will capture people's attention is something that I really want to do. I realized that my previous writing has not always been up to the mark. If I go back and read a couple of my stories or all of my stories, I will definitely cringe, and I thought this would be a good one. But I'm really hoping that this will be able to help me in more ways than one. And I have also seen Nandini read this from Read Dream Repeat, and she has told me that the few pages that she has read are really good. So I have high expectations and hopes from this book. Next are two ebooks that I bought. The first is called Sattvic Foods of India by Anupama Shukla, and I've heard that the Sattvic movement of diet and all of that, it's really helpful in getting your health back to point one. And even if I won't be able to implement everything that's mentioned or everything that it talks about, then I think that even if I am able to do half of the things that they are saying, then maybe my life will get a little bit better, my health will get a little bit better. It's more about health than about weight. So I really think that this will help me in some ways. I don't know how much, but I'm hoping that to a certain extent. I know it might be a little premature, but I know that I've seen results, so I know it's effective. I don't know how effective it will be for me. Next up is Born a Crime by Trevor Noah. I know I have a physical copy, but it's with my brother. So I thought I'll get a Kindle copy, and I was getting it at like 88-89 rupees. So I thought, okay, let's get this. It'll be handy anytime I want it, and it'll be on my Kindle. So I went and got it. This is Trevor Noah's memoir. I'm really looking forward to reading this memoir because I've heard nothing but amazing things about this memoir. And Trevor Noah is such a magnetic personality. He is one of the faces of, chat show television, and I am really looking forward to reading this, really looking forward to knowing more about this man and about the situation in South Africa. So let's see how it goes. And then I was going to end this video over here, but we ended up ordering 3 more books today. The first one is A Psalm of Storms and Silence by Roseanne A. Brown, which is the second in the I don't know what duology it's called, but it's a sequel to A Song of Wraiths and Ruin. I wanted to get it before the year ends. I don't know what that series is about, but those covers are fantastic. I usually don't like people on covers, but this one, exception, I just love. And then we also ordered the Anthropocene Reviewed by John Green. I listened to the audiobook on Libro FM, which I'm really grateful for, and I had a lot of fun listening to it, but I was also, it just tugged at my heartstrings, this book, and John Green narrated it, and I loved it. It's one of my favorite reads of 2021, and I thought I need to have a physical copy, and so we ordered a paperback copy of it. And the last book in this video, it is Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I already have an audiobook of this through Libro FM, which I haven't gotten around to reading it. It is one of my most anticipated reads of 2021, but I was not able to read it. But I'm getting a hardcover, and it was cheaper than the paperback, so I was like, let's get it, and I will listen to the audiobook while reading the book, which is going to be a fabulous experience. And Taylor Jenkins Reid, I love Taylor Jenkins Reid's writing. I'm really looking forward to reading Malibu Rising. If not in 2021, then in 2022 for sure. So those were all the books that I got since the last book haul, which was probably my birthday book haul. What did you think of this video? Did you like it? Did you not like it? Which of these books have you read? Which ones do you want to read? Which ones are you going to add to your TBRs? Which ones are you going to add to your wish list? And which one would you recommend that I fast track? And let me know in the comments. I will definitely do that. Yeah, let me know in the comments what you think, and anything else that you would like to ask me. I would love to hear from you. I really want to hold up all the books, but I can't right now, so let's just leave it at that. But yes, if you like this video, please like it and share it to spread the word. And if you like my content and would like to see more from me, don't forget to hit subscribe and click on the bell icon beside the subscribe button to get notified as and when I post new videos. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Until next time, keep reading, keep watching, and add melodrama to your life.